There is a truth every trader must eventually face if they want to rise above the endless cycle of inconsistency, frustration, and emotional decision-making. A truth that cuts deeper than any motivational quote, deeper than any strategy tutorial, deeper than any indicator or technical pattern. You've heard pieces of it in some of the previous videos we've shared, the video on discipline, the one on why many traders quit just before they succeed, the one on confidence and trusting your plan, even the one about impatience destroying good setups. Each of those lessons pointed in the same direction, but this one reveals the heart of the matter. The truth is this: you are not inconsistent because you lack knowledge. You are inconsistent because you lack awareness. And the reason you lack awareness is because you refuse to measure your own behavior in the market. The markets are not hiding your weaknesses from you. You are hiding your weaknesses from yourself. Traders spend years jumping from one system to another, trying new methods, tweaking their stop losses, adjusting their indicators, binging educational videos, chasing strategies, comparing themselves to others, yet they never confront the one missing piece that every consistent trader, every single one, has mastered: a proper, brutally honest, day-by-day trading journal. Not the kind of journal you fill out once in a while. Not the list of wins and losses you jot down when you feel like it. Not the pretty spreadsheet you made but never maintained. I mean a real journal, a mirror, a spotlight, a record of your decisions, your emotions, your impulses, and your mindset captured in real time, without excuse, without sugarcoating, without pretending. The painful truth is this: most traders do not want to journal because journaling forces them to meet the real trader behind their results. You see, it's easy to blame the market when you lose. It's easy to claim the setup wasn't clean. It's easy to say the time frame was choppy, the spread was wide, the session was slow, the news came unexpectedly. But when you journal, suddenly the excuses disappear. Suddenly, you see yourself clearly. And that clarity terrifies traders more than losses do. Think about your own journey. Think about the times you broke your rules, the times you over-leveraged, the times you exited too early out of fear or held too long out of hope. Think about the times you took trades that didn't match your plan in the name of intuition. Think about how many times you told yourself you would improve, but then repeated the same behaviors again the next day. This is what I meant in our earlier video about the stages of psychological development in trading. When I said that every trader enters a phase where they know exactly what they should do, but they still fail to do it, the reason is simple. Knowledge does not equal awareness. A trader can be fully educated and still completely blind. I lived this myself. Long before the newspapers ever wrote about my success, long before the public ever heard my name, long before I made or lost fortunes, I was a young trader learning the same lessons many of you are learning right now. I was impatient, reactive, emotional. I chased moves too late. I exited too early. I moved stops when discipline required me not to. I took trades out of boredom. I took trades out of anger. I took trades out of a desire to prove something. Sound familiar? You've lived those same patterns. You've felt the frustration. You've felt the self-betrayal that comes after promising yourself you'd do better tomorrow. You've felt the sting of knowing that the loss was your fault, not because the market tricked you, but because you refused to hold yourself accountable. And yet, most traders never learn from those moments. They don't study them. They don't document them. They don't examine them. They hide from them. And so the cycle continues, day after day, week after week, loss after loss, breakdown after breakdown. Inconsistent behavior always leads to inconsistent results. But you cannot change behavior that you do not track. Think back to another recent video we made, the one about why most traders quit right before they become consistent. In that video, we talked about emotional pressure, the feeling of being trapped between progress and failure. We talked about how a trader can be so close to a breakthrough yet walk away because the pain of self-confrontation becomes too heavy. This is why journaling is the missing piece. A journal isn't just a collection of data, it is an emotional audit. It reveals your patterns. It exposes your weaknesses. It shows you your strengths. It highlights what you repeat, where you hesitate, where you sabotage yourself, and where you improve without realizing it. A trading journal is the only tool that connects your behavior to your results. Without it, you will never understand why your losses repeat. Without it, you will never understand why your winners don't hold. Without it, you will never understand why your good weeks turn into bad ones. Without it, you will never understand why you keep violating your rules even though you know better. That's why your consistency has been blocked. Not because you lack skill, but because you lack clarity. You've watched our videos on discipline, confidence, psychological pressure, and emotional resilience for a reason. Something inside you resonated. Something inside you recognized yourself in those stories. Something inside you knows you can do better, be better, trade better. But knowledge alone will not transform you. Only measured awareness will. Let me tell you a story. There was a month early in my trading journey where I performed terribly, not due to bad strategy, not due to market conditions, but because I was reckless, emotional, stubborn. I thought I could outsmart the market with sheer confidence, and the market punished me for my arrogance. One evening, instead of blaming the conditions, I did something different. I went to my desk, printed every trade from that month, and spread them across the table. I saw my flaws in front of me for the first time. My hesitation, my fear, my greed, my impatience, my self-deception. That moment changed my life more than any winning streak ever did. You don't build consistency by chasing profits. You build consistency by confronting patterns. This is why, throughout this channel, we keep reminding you, whether it was the video about building discipline, or the one about how traders destroy good setups, or the one about scaling small accounts the right way, that everything begins with self-observation. A journal is the blueprint of your evolution. A journal is the evidence of who you are becoming. A journal is the record of your transformation. And until you keep one, you will always be trading with one eye closed. Before we continue, if this message hits you deeply, then subscribe to the channel, like this video, and tell us honestly what you love about these videos and where we can improve. Your feedback shapes every topic we create. Most traders believe the reason they don't journal is because they're busy, or because they don't know how, or because the process seems tedious. But after all my years watching traders rise and fall, after observing hundreds of patterns, behaviors, and emotional cycles, the truth is far more uncomfortable. Traders don't avoid journaling because it's difficult. They avoid journaling because it forces them to face the one person they spend their whole trading career hiding from: themselves. This fear, this subtle, persistent, almost invisible resistance, is the psychological core behind why inconsistency persists even when a trader knows better. You may remember in our earlier videos where we talked about self-sabotage, especially in the episode on why traders quit right before they succeed. I explained that every trader reaches a point where the obstacle is no longer the market, it's the silence between their own thoughts. Journaling amplifies that silence. Journaling confronts your internal dialogue. Journaling exposes you to your own truth. And most traders are simply not ready for that level of honesty. Let's break down exactly why. 1. Journaling removes your ability to lie to yourself. Every trader has two identities: the trader they think they are, and the trader they actually are. The version you imagine, the disciplined, patient, rational version, is the one you believe shows up each day. But the version that actually clicks the buttons, manages risk, reacts to the chart, and battles emotions, that's a very different trader. A journal bridges the gap between the two. Suddenly you can no longer say, "I follow my rules most of the time." The journal shows you exactly when you don't. You can no longer say, "I only take high-quality setups." The journal reveals the impulsive entries you justified in the moment. You can no longer say, "I'm disciplined." The journal exposes every decision made out of fear, stress, boredom, frustration, or ego. Without the journal, you can preserve the illusion of discipline. With the journal, the illusion shatters. And this is why traders resist it. Not because journaling is tedious, but because self-honesty is painful. Think back to our video on impatience. How many traders watched that and felt exposed? They recognized themselves in the mistakes I described, but even then they didn't document the moments where impatience showed up in their trades. They didn't write down the trades they forced. They didn't record the early exits or the premature entries, because writing it down removes the escape route. It removes the fantasy. The journal forces you to admit, I wasn't disciplined. I was emotional. That level of honesty is where consistency begins, but it is also the exact point where most traders turn away. 2. Journaling removes emotional justifications. When a trader doesn't journal, every loss has a convenient explanation. The market was manipulated. Price moved too fast. It looked like a breakout. The news ruined the setup. I thought it would reverse. But a journal eliminates the excuses because it documents decisions before the outcome. Once you write down, what did you plan to do? What you actually did? Why did you make the decision? How did you feel? And how that decision aligned with your rules. There is no place for emotional rationalization to hide. You see the truth in black and white. You see that the loss didn't come from the strategy. It came from your deviation. You see that the win wasn't the result of skill, it was luck wrapped in bad discipline. Most traders subconsciously know this. That's why they avoid journaling. Not because they're lazy, but because deep down, they fear being exposed by their own written words. Remember that video about blowing accounts due to refusing to take a small loss? So many traders commented saying they knew what they were doing wrong. But few ever wrote down the moments where they let a loss run. Few documented the emotional state that caused them to freeze. Few analyzed why they avoided pressing the close button. The journal would have forced them to admit they weren't in control. And that admission is the beginning of growth, but also the beginning of discomfort. 3. Journaling forces you to confront your patterns. Every trader has patterns, hidden behaviors that repeat themselves over and over again until they become the blueprint of failure. Patterns like taking trades out of boredom, entering too early because waiting feels unbearable, exiting too early because a small win feels safer than a larger one, adding to losing positions out of denial, moving stop losses because taking the loss feels like personal failure, over-leveraging after a loss to make it back, breaking rules whenever emotions spike. These patterns destroy traders, but most never see them because they never track them. In our previous video on scaling capital from small to bigger accounts, we explained that scaling is not about money, it's about behavior. If your behavior is inconsistent, no amount of capital will fix it. An undisciplined trader with $500 is an undisciplined trader with $50,000. The only difference is how quickly the account disappears. A trading journal reveals your patterns brutally and without mercy. You start to see, I always lose during certain hours. I always break rules after a winning streak. I always give back profits on Fridays. I always enter too early on trend reversals. I always rush into trades after missing one. Most traders don't want to see these truths because seeing them means they must change. And change is uncomfortable. So instead, they avoid journaling, and the patterns remain alive. 4. Journaling forces accountability. Without a journal, you answer to no one. You can break your rules and no one will know. You can blow your account and no one will see the decisions that led to it. You can sabotage yourself and pretend you're improving. A journal removes the freedom to hide. And accountability, true accountability, is terrifying. In my other video, we talked about how the journey becomes painful right before the breakthrough. That pain comes from accountability. That discomfort comes from seeing your behavior under a microscope. The journal turns that microscope on every part of your trading psychology. Some traders would rather lose money than face accountability. It sounds irrational, but it's the truth. Accountability feels like confinement to the undisciplined mind. But to the trader who wants to evolve, it feels like liberation. And that brings us to the deepest barrier of all. 5. Journaling removes your ability to not know. Most traders float through the market in a fog of emotional confusion. They don't know why they lose. They don't know why they win. They don't know why they break rules. They don't know why they make progress one week and fall apart the next. But there is power in not knowing, because as long as you don't know, you don't have to change. A journal destroys the fog. It turns "I don't know" into "I break rules when I'm anxious. I chase trades after missing opportunities. I overtrade when I'm tired. I manage trades poorly when I'm trying to impress myself. I lose money when I refuse to wait for confirmation." The moment you know the truth, your excuses die. And with no excuses left, improvement becomes mandatory. This is why journaling is the one missing piece blocking your consistency, because consistency is impossible without clarity, and clarity is impossible without documentation. Before we move to Section 3, take a moment. If you're getting value from these videos, subscribe, like this video, and tell us what you genuinely love about this style and what you think we can improve to serve you better. Your feedback shapes the evolution of this channel. Every trader believes they understand their emotions. But belief is not understanding, and understanding is not mastery. The market doesn't test your strategy. It tests your nervous system. This is why you can know exactly what to do, exactly what your plan says, exactly what your rules require, exactly what your setup demands, yet still violate everything the moment pressure rises inside you. In the earlier part of this video, we talked about how journaling forces honesty. But to truly understand why journaling becomes the turning point, you must first understand the emotional triggers that destroy the discipline of traders at every level. These triggers live in the background of your mind, hidden, subtle, quiet, but devastating. They fire faster than your logic can catch them, and they shape your decisions long before your strategy has a chance to speak. Let's expose them one by one. 1. The trigger of fear, the root of hesitation, early exits, and rule breaking. Fear is the oldest human instinct, and the market activates it mercilessly. You fear losing money. You fear being wrong. You fear missing the move. You fear leaving profit behind. You fear the chart turning the moment you enter. You fear watching the candle spike against you. You fear judgment from yourself more than anyone else. Fear doesn't show up as shouting. It shows up as whispers. Just get out now. Take the profit while it's still there. What if it reverses? Don't wait for confirmation, you'll miss it. Move the stop. Give the trade room. Fear disguises itself as logic. Fear pretends to be caution. Fear tells you it's protecting you even as it destroys your plan. Think about the video we made on trusting your plan and building confidence, like Jesse Livermore. Many viewers commented saying they know their plan works but still cannot follow it consistently. That's because fear overrides logic before logic has time to intervene. But here's the key. Fear only wins when it operates in the dark, and journaling shines a light directly on it. When you journal how fear influenced your decision, you stop assuming the market was the cause. You see the truth. It wasn't the volatility. It wasn't the candle. It wasn't the session. It was fear. And once you identify the moment fear appears, you begin to reclaim control. Fear loses its power when it becomes visible. 2. The trigger of greed, the hidden saboteur behind overtrading. Greed doesn't always come from wanting more money. Often, it comes from wanting more control. When traders feel powerless, they chase control through aggressive action. They trade too much. They over-leverage. They force setups. This is why in the video on impatience destroying good setups, so many traders admitted they knew they were forcing trades even while placing them. Greed isn't loud, it's subtle. That one was too small. You need a bigger win. Take another trade. One more. Make up for the last one. This session is slow. Push harder. You missed the move. Chase it. You deserve it. Greed is not ambition. Greed is emotional pressure disguised as opportunity. Journaling exposes greed with brutal clarity because it tracks your motives, not just your trades. You begin to see patterns. I took this trade because I felt left out. I increased my lot size because I was angry at the previous loss. I entered without confirmation because I wanted a fast win. I broke my rules because I needed to feel in control. Once greed is documented, it loses its camouflage. It becomes a behavior, not a mystery. 3. The trigger of boredom, the silent killer of accounts. This is one of the most dangerous triggers because boredom doesn't evoke strong emotions. It feels harmless, but boredom is deadly. Some traders lose more money during slow markets than volatile ones, not because the markets were difficult, but because their mind demanded stimulation. Boredom whispers, "Take something, anything. You're wasting time. No setups? Create one. Do something. The day is passing." Boredom doesn't care about your strategy. It cares about activity. In our earlier video about blowing small accounts due to emotional revenge trading, we discussed how traders fall apart after a disciplined streak. Boredom is one of the main reasons. After discipline, the mind craves relief, entertainment, stimulation. Journaling reveals this instantly. When you write down the real reason you took a trade, and that reason is boredom, you can't pretend it was a setup. You can't lie to yourself. You can't justify it as intuition. You can't pretend your strategy required it. The moment you document boredom, you see how much money you lose when you act from it. And once you see it, you can eliminate it. 4. The trigger of ego, the most dangerous force in trading. Ego destroys more traders than bad strategies ever will. Ego is not arrogance. Ego is identity. It is the part of you that refuses to be wrong, the part that refuses to accept a loss, the part that takes trades to prove something, the part that tries to outperform reality. Ego activates when you break rules after a big win, you add to a losing position, you refuse to exit a trade that clearly failed, you double your lot size to recover pride, you ignore your plan because you feel certain. In our video titled "Everyone Wants Profits, Few Want the Mindset Required to Earn Them," we spoke about how ego creates emotional blindness. You stop trading the market, you trade your self-image. A journal dissolves ego because ego cannot survive evidence. When you have written proof that your biggest losses came from ego-driven decisions, something inside you shifts, something softens. Something acknowledges that the market is not a battlefield for pride, it is a mirror for behavior. Ego thrives in denial. Journaling removes denial. 5. The trigger of desperation, the fastest path to account destruction. Desperation is born from a simple emotional wound. I need to fix this now. It appears after a big loss, a missed move, a blown account, a mistake you regret out, a streak of bad trades, feeling behind in life. Desperation forces traders into chaos. They take trades they would never normally take. They risk amounts they would never normally risk. They abandon every rule they created. Desperation collapses logic. Desperation collapses strategy. Desperation collapses identity. And here's the irony. Desperation convinces you that the next trade will save you, when in reality, it ruins you. In our video about why traders blow accounts, we explained that blowing accounts doesn't happen in a moment, it happens in a mindset. A journal exposes that mindset before it grows into disaster. When you write, "I took this because I felt desperate," you interrupt the emotional spiral. You confront the truth. You slow down. You breathe. You realign. A journal becomes the brake pedal that desperation never gives you. 6. The emotional loop, how triggers combine to destroy your consistency. Here's the most important psychological secret. Your emotional triggers don't act alone. They activate each other. A trader feels bored, takes a reckless trade, loses, feels desperate, increases lot size, loses more ego, refuses to quit. Fear spikes, rule breaking escalates, account implodes. This emotional chain reaction happens in minutes. But journaling breaks the sequence. It gives you awareness at the first link. It allows you to catch the trigger before it becomes a disaster. You stop the cycle at its origin. You build discipline at the emotional level, not the strategic level. This is why journaling transforms traders in ways strategy never can. 7. Why all this matters. You've watched videos from this channel that hit you in deep places, whether it was the one on discipline, trading stages, impatience, blown accounts, scaling capital, trusting your plan, trading psychology under pressure. Those videos resonated because they speak to the emotional truth behind trading. But journaling is the tool that turns those lessons into transformation. Without journaling, you learn. With journaling, you change. You see, by the time a trader reaches this stage, this moment of harsh self-recognition, most don't realize they're standing at the edge of a transformation. Not a small shift, not a slight improvement. A transformation. The kind that separates the trader who fades after a few years from the one who climbs into that rare category, the consistent trader who survives every cycle. And the truth is, very few reach this point. Very few ever look themselves in the mirror and admit, I'm the reason my results are unstable. But the ones who do, the ones who truly accept it, those are the traders who rise. And that's where you are now. Because once you've identified that missing piece, once you understand that consistency is not a result of entries or indicators or predictions, but a reflection of who you are in the market, everything changes. The market stops being a battlefield and becomes a mirror. But here is the part most traders never hear. The missing piece is not just tracking your trades, it's tracking yourself, the trader behind the trades, the mind behind the decisions, the emotional fingerprints left on every action you take. Without that, your trading will always disconnect from your potential. Always. You remember how, in one of your previous videos, why most traders quit before they succeed, you talked about the emotional fatigue that sneaks in after a string of losses, or even after a run of wins. That video connected deeply with traders because it was the first time many realized their downfall wasn't technical, it was emotional. And that lesson ties directly into what I'm telling you today. The market does not punish the unskilled nearly as harshly as it punishes the unaware. Awareness is the armor of a consistent trader. Awareness is the shield that protects your capital long enough for you to become the person who deserves consistency. But here's the thing, most will never fully grasp. Awareness is not passive. You cannot wish for it. You cannot hope for it. You must document it. You must capture the invisible forces that govern your decisions and reveal them under the light. You must confront the impulses you've been hiding from, the ones quietly shaping your future. Because those patterns, those emotional loops, don't disappear on their own. They deepen, they harden, and if you don't track them, they become your identity as a trader. And that identity will sabotage you every single time. This is why in another one of your videos, your piece on the psychology of confidence in trusting your plan, you explored how traders lose trust not because the plan is flawed, but because their own inconsistencies erode their confidence. That concept is the essence of this entire message. When you don't track yourself, when you don't document your behavior, your losses become emotional, your wins become temporary, your progress becomes invisible. And so you stop trusting your own execution, even when the plan is perfect. But when you document your decisions, when you see yourself clearly, you rebuild trust. One trade at a time. You become your own source of confidence. You see, a trader without documentation can only experience the market in fragments. A good day, a bad day, a lucky trade, a painful mistake. But they never understand the full arc of their development. But the moment you begin documenting not just entries and exits, but your thoughts, your reasons, your expectations, your emotions, everything locks into place. You gain perspective. You see the difference between a good trade and a profitable trade. You understand the difference between a disciplined loss and a reckless win. And that's where consistency begins. Because consistency is not perfection. Consistency is alignment. Alignment between your rules and your actions. Between who you want to be and how you behave when you're under pressure. And this journal, this documentation is the bridge that carries you across that gap. The only bridge that holds. Without it, you will forever rebuild your trading on unstable ground, hoping the next plan will save you. But with it, you give yourself the one thing no trader can succeed without, a reliable version of yourself. And I'll tell you something else, something traders rarely admit aloud. The journal becomes a refuge, a sanctuary, a place where you regain control when the market feels uncontrollable, a place where you remind yourself of your identity as a trader, your purpose, your rules, your lessons. When emotions cloud your thinking, the journal cuts through them like a blade. When fear rises, the journal anchors you. When greed whispers, the journal keeps you steady. When doubt returns, the journal reminds you how far you've come. That is why the journal is not simply a tool. It is the missing piece, the final ingredient in the recipe for consistency. And if you've watched my other video, the mindset required to trade like a professional, you'll recall the part where I mentioned that trading is not about predicting the future, but rather about surviving long enough to evolve. The journal is what allows you to survive long enough, because the trader who documents learns twice as fast. They adapt twice as quickly. They eliminate destructive habits twice as effectively. They stay in the game long enough for the compounding effect of self-awareness to transform their entire trajectory. So now you stand at a crossroads. One path leads to more of the same, more inconsistency, more impulsive trades, more emotional storms. The other path leads to discipline, clarity, growth, and finally, consistency. And the difference between the two is whether you commit to documenting your process. Not tomorrow, not someday, today, right now. Because once you begin, once you make it part of who you are, the market opens itself to you in ways you've never seen before. Patterns emerge, mistakes shrink, wins become intentional, losses become instructional, and you become consistent. And I want you to hear this part closely. You're not just building a journal, you're building a legacy. You're building the future version of yourself who will look back, years from now, grateful that you began documenting your journey today. Because that trader, the future, you will be calm, disciplined, confident, consistent, and they will know that this moment, this exact moment, was the turning point. Now, before we wrap this message, I want to speak directly to you, viewer to viewer. If this video resonates, if you've been struggling with inconsistency, with discipline, with emotional control, go back and watch the videos linked in the description. Watch the one on why most traders quit before they succeed. Watch the one on trusting your plan. Watch the one on the mindset required to grow. They all connect to this one message. They are pieces of the same puzzle, the same evolution. And if these videos help you, genuinely help you, then subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment below, and tell us what part of these videos speaks to you the most, and what you'd love to see improved. Your words shape these videos. Your feedback builds the direction of this channel. This community exists because of you. So stay with us, stay committed, and remember, consistency is not a gift. It is earned, and you're earning it right now.